Okay, in interest of time, we're going to get started. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and thank you to everybody who's joined so far. I want to really thank you for joining us today in the exciting launch of wethrive, a fully integrated open access package for education, child protection, and mental health and psychosocial support practitioners in acute crisis. As we begin, I hope you all have taken a moment to reflect on what we have to gain through working through in an integrated manner in our rapid responses. We hope to capture your reflections in the Menti. We have a packed agenda today to share the wethrive package, but first, some introductions. If you go to the next slide, Ariel.
Sorry, Emily, if I can jump in. Would it be
Yeah.
possible to put it in presenter mode just because we can see the notes at the moment? Thanks.
Thank you, Ariel. So, as I said, we have a packed agenda to share the wethrive package. First, we're going to do some introductions and then some reflections on integration, a concept that is often used in our work but rarely fully achieved in practice. We will then turn to a full overview of the package so you can see what it has to offer. Next, we will turn to where this package has been and currently being utilized. First, learning from our wonderful colleagues in Sudan, and then discussing some other use cases around the globe. And finally, we'll talk about how you can access and use this material. We will hold some time at the end for questions and answers. As we work through this presentation, please use the chat function to ask any questions. We will use this time at the end to answer as many of those as possible. And any questions that we don't get to, we will be following up via email. As a reminder, this session will be recorded. Okay, let's go to the next slide and let's turn to who you will be hearing from today. wethrive has been a fully collaborative effort, and as such, you will be hearing from several voices today. I am Emily Durkin, an education advisor at Save the Children. I will be joined live today by Rachel Smith, a senior education and MHPSS advisor, Lauren Murray, Save the Children's child protection lead, and Lubaba Ghazamaleh Said, the MHPSS coordinator in Sudan. You will also hear from several experts via video. Now to begin, integration. Ariel, please go over to the Menti slide. I think you'll have to go to the website now, but. So integration, true integration, is the foundation of the wethrive package. From its inception, child protection, mental health and psychosocial support, and education have come together to create this package. And we've also integrated various technical experts and their work from health, sexual reproductive and rights and health, also WASH, etc. You'll hear from those experts later. As we know, a child is not separated into sectors. As such, our responses need to be holistic. Let's see what you have said as we reflected on what there is to gain from working across sectors in a rapid response. I see some really interesting responses here. Increased trust from the communities, greater gains with joint resources. Resources is hot topic today in our sector, so it's important to be considering that. Whole child approach to address different needs. Perspective of different needs from program participants, as well as more ways to address said needs. We also gain teamwork within the organization. And I would like to extend that to beyond organizations and working in partnership across different agencies. Serve the needs of beneficiaries holistically with comprehensive package of services, ensuring no child or cohort of children are left behind. These are excellent responses, and we're going to have them keep coming in because I think it's an important reminder as we move forward in our work and understanding what integration has to offer and saying that the We Thrive package is an offer to help you do so. Thank you all for participating in the Menti. We'll continue to accept responses, but I will now pass over to Rachel Smith, who will be taking us through the We Thrive package and where it maximizes some of these potential gains.
Thank you so much, Emily. And it's great to be on this INE webinar today and to see so many familiar faces in the chat, in the participants. Great. So yeah, if we can share this slide, please, Ariel. Wonderful. So what is We Thrive? What are we here to talk about today? We Thrive is Save the Children's new integrated package of group activities. It's been designed for children and adolescents affected by crises, and it's meant for use in safe group spaces. So this could be a child-friendly space, it could be a temporary learning centre, a community centre, a school, a mobile setup, even a health centre, as long as the space itself adheres to international and national standards in terms of safety and access. The rationale for developing We Thrive was to shift away from the centrality of the CFS in emergencies as the only space and to focus more on the quality of the activities being conducted in safe spaces, and also to ensure an integrated approach that takes a whole child approach to addressing wellbeing, protection and learning needs in the first phase of a response. The package itself, which we will share in the chat in a moment, if you haven't already seen it, consists of an implementation guide, including some program principles, which I'll talk about in a moment, session plans. So we have age groups 0 to 3 plus caregivers, then 4 to 6, 7 to 11, 12 to 14, and 15 to 17. It includes a training package for facilitators and a meal toolkit. We'll go into each of those components one by one. Next slide, please, Ariel. We Thrive, the overall goal of We Thrive, as I mentioned, is to enhance crisis-affected children and adolescents' protection, learning and well-being through playful, accessible and life-saving integrated sessions. We Thrive is simple, fast and flexible. It's simple because it uses plain, easy to translate language, which has been designed to be very straightforward for facilitators and includes the same structure throughout sessions. It's fast because it's been designed to be rolled out quickly and used within the first 0 to 6 months of a response with minimal training and resources required. And it's flexible because teams can select and adapt sessions based on local context, children's interests and their needs. There is no fixed schedule or sequence for the sessions. We only recommend beginning with one session on safe and unsafe, which is a child protection session, which is available across the age groups. Other than that, it's very flexible to be used alongside other approaches or to be used as a standalone approach. Next slide, please. So the program principles were developed in an integrated way by child protection, MHPSS and education colleagues at Save the Children. The implementation guide expands on each of these principles with additional guidance about how to implement them. So We Thrive is designed for teams to respond rapidly to the immediate risks and needs of children and adolescents, which can be exacerbated by crisis. It starts with community ownership. So we emphasize involving communities from the start so that they can support with key decisions such as the identification of the safe space, the appropriate facilitators, and selection of games and activities. And diverse community ownership will strengthen with the We Thrive intervention from the beginning. Children and adolescents should be enabled to be the key actors in community decision making. So group activities can be used as an opportunity to engage children in better understanding their lives and what matters to them, and to support them to take active roles within their communities and promote a sense of agency. We Thrive should, of course, promote inclusion and ensure that all activities are safe and protective for children and adolescents. Essential to the delivery of We Thrive is selecting or creating a physically and emotionally safe and protective environment where activities can take place. So it should be responsive to gender-specific risks, and those implementing should identify and mitigate risks that may exist when children, adolescents, caregivers, and staff travel to and from the safe space. The sessions themselves should be playful. They include, as we'll have a look at, a combination of guided activities and also a focus on supervised free play or free time, which supports a sense of normalcy, and the sessions themselves build life-saving social and emotional skills as well as literacy and numeracy skills. We Thrive facilitators are trained on safe identification and referrals, and children and adolescents are provided, as I mentioned before, with a specific session called Safe and Unsafe to help them understand what child protection and safeguarding risks are and what to do if they or a friend are at risk of experiencing violence, exploitation, or neglect. For those children aged 7 and over, there are sessions on sexual reproductive health and rights and gender-based violence. And we'll hear more from our health colleague about these sessions in a moment. Facilitators should receive training and then regular supervision. So clear safeguarding guidance, peer support, and wellbeing resources to ensure inclusive, safe, and effective engagement with children. And the training package can be adapted according to the facilitator's background. So we recommend working with community facilitators who might come from a range of specializations or experiences of working with children and young people. And finally, as Emily's emphasized already, strong collaboration across sectors is built in from the beginning, and integration is key to the success of this package. And next slide, please, Ariel. Thank you. We think it's also important to emphasize what We Thrive is not, just to ensure that it's being picked up and used in the most appropriate way. So it's not a brand new approach. It brings together existing Save the Children packages and also other openly sourced materials that you might be familiar with. The idea being to reduce decision fatigue in the selection process, and to ensure that if you pick up this package, you know that you're working in an integrated way from the start, but you don't have to choose between lots of different packages that might be available. It's not a long-term education or child protection program, so it may be that you are running this, as I said, alongside other programming, and this is complementarity. But otherwise, you are thinking, when you pick up We Thrive, you're thinking from the beginning, what kind of longer term, more structured programming am I going to transition into? If that's education, thinking about non-formal or formal education opportunities, depending on the type of crisis, the length of the response, and so on. We're not interested in measuring academic learning during the first phase of a response. The focus is on well-being rather than learning outcomes. And next slide, please. Also to mention, it's not a replacement for PFA, so that is psychological first aid. Lots of you on this call will be very familiar with this. It's not meant to treat children or adolescents exposed to potentially traumatic events. However, it does support children's well-being through connection and play, and it builds on those protective factors. And finally, there's no imperative for what should happen after We Thrive. So internally we say, you will be selecting from other program options or Save the Children's common approaches. If you're using this externally, thinking about what's the most appropriate transition for education, for MHPSS, for child protection beyond We Thrive. And I think I'm handing over to Laurie now.
Thank you so much. So this package has been developed and piloted in partnership with several key donors, such as ECHO and LEGO, who are, I'm sure as many of you know, two donors and agencies who are truly invested in and the value of integrated programming. So maybe this has piqued your interest and now you're wondering, where do I start? We recommend that the first document you look at is the implementation guide. This outlines the program principles that Rachel just walked us through, but it also provides really practical, operational, step-by-step rollout guidance. It also includes key considerations for design and adaptation, taking into account maybe different age groups or children with disabilities. This guide helps teams to decide when and how to use wethrive and how to tailor it for the local context in which they're operating. We can go on to the next slide, please. The manual of activities have both guided activity topics and a focus on free play. So there's a variety of selection in terms of the types of topics you may look at, which are included there on the slide, such as self-awareness and empowerment, positive social skills, literacy and numeracy skills, sexual and reproductive health, and life-saving learning, which I'll look at a bit more next. We recommend that you determine the order of the sessions that you go in based on the needs of the children and adolescents. But as Rachel mentioned, we have one session that we recommend is your starting point. You also have flexibility to extend the sessions. You can add more activities, you can add more time for free play and free time. But we recommend that you don't focus on more than one topic per session, just because they have a lot of information and they're designed to really be digestible as they are. On to the next slide, please. We wanted to spotlight this life-saving learning component, which is one of the most unique parts of wethrive. These sessions teach children what to do in emergencies, and they're on really practical topics like fire safety, floods, earthquakes, or disease outbreaks. They're practical, they're engaging, and they're directly linked to children's safety and survival in crisis settings. The published package, as it stands now, includes 15 different risks. However, we've been working with country offices to develop further sessions based on need, and we're open to get more requests and suggestions for feedback. So for example, we've developed a session on diphtheria in response to a recent outbreak in Somalia, and we're working on a session on drought at the moment, which is being co-developed by colleagues in Madagascar. In addition to these sessions, we're working with an advisory group of donors and partners to develop measurement tools for these topics so we can be sure that they are having a significant impact. On to the next slide, please. We wanted to discuss a little bit about the training package for facilitators. So this can take about 3 to 4 days. Best done in person, but completely possible to be done online. And it focuses on the essentials: recognizing and referring children at risk, promoting well-being, supporting holistic child development, and it allows facilitators to practice preparing and rolling out sessions. Through this training, facilitators can feel confident to adapt the sessions to their target group and to help phase them. In addition to this training, the staff must also receive child safeguarding and PFA training as prerequisites. And we wanted to discuss a little bit about the meal toolkit. Onto the next slide, please. The meal toolkit includes several practical tools. It helps to track participation, quality, and outcomes. It includes many of the tools you'll have seen before, such as attendance forms, surveys, discussion tools, and observation checklists. Indicators focus on participation, on safety, and on accountability, as well as psychosocial well-being, to make sure that the program is both child-centered and effective. We really recommend that meal colleagues be engaged right at the start of implementing and designing wethrive to help determine which tools are relevant and which tools will be used. It's also worth noting that there's 2 tools under development at the moment, which we expect to align well with the wethrive package. These are a tool for measuring life-saving learning outcomes and a tool for measuring subjective well-being, social connectedness, and the ability to cope, which is called Are You Well? We will share updates on these tools as and when they're available. And for any other meal-related questions, please do feel free to pop them in the chat or even email us after the session. We'll provide our email addresses at the end. And now over to you, Emily.
Thanks, Lori. So now I want to open up this conversation a little bit to understand what other technical experts are saying about We Thrive in implementation and in its inception. Ariel, if you can play the video, please.
Hi everyone, my name is Jinsenda. I'm a global child protection advisor. I'm excited to share how We Thrive helps strengthen child protection through integration across sectors. We Thrive applies the principles of mainstreaming and integration within safe group activities for children in crisis. By integrating child protection education and MHPSS, we promote a coordinated action which enhances the restoration of normalcy, builds safer communities, and upholds children's rights and well-being. Integration saves time and resources and responds to the child more holistically. I look forward to seeing We Thrive live in your location. Ciao!
We Thrive is really what we needed. Hand washing and life-saving messages are key to preventing communicable diseases, especially in the first phases of our response. And using We Thrive, we can combine WASH and public health technical knowledge with the best ways to create an enabling environment for children to learn. In this way, we can disseminate life-saving messages to more people and more efficiently. Children can really become agents of their own protection.
We Thrive has put mental health and well-being as a foundational principle of learning, protection, and health outcomes instead of an afterthought. And in that sense, We Thrive creates the condition for us to achieve our collective aim, which is to create a place of normalcy, routine, and safety for all children.
The quality of the learning environment, the physical space, is a key enabler to the success of any project. And in emergencies, there can be a lack of consideration for assessing the infrastructure, leading to unsafe or unsuitable facilities that will directly impact on project outcomes. We Thrive has embedded the mandate to ensure a physically safe space to support integrated programming in acute crises. The priority of the physical infrastructure is embedded in every aspect of the toolkit, including the risk assessment, the meal pack, and the protection survey. Overall, I find it a really valuable tool that will strengthen Save the Children's mandate to support safe, quality programming in emergencies.
So the SRHR package contains information or I mean, you could see the package as well and go into details, but a bit about their bodies, on puberty, on protecting themselves from STIs, protecting themselves from GBV, intimate partner violence, and looking at a little bit more on menstrual hygiene, on reproduction, and on safe reproduction as well. And I think these topics are really, really critical. And why integration is important, because this is not something we can necessarily provide. By we, I mean the health sector can provide through the service delivery points. I think this is very important to understand. This messaging, we at the service delivery points, and especially at the very onset of an emergency, what we're doing is providing services. We're providing life-saving services. So we do receive adolescents, and we could receive adolescents that have reproductive health programs, but it would be very rare that we can actually provide this level and this extent of information in that setting. On the other hand, we know that this is really, really critical for children of all ages, because it is enabling them to understand what their risks are, to understand maybe what their symptoms are after they have been exposed to something. And I think that, again, that level of messaging in education is not possible within a first onset of emergency within the health programming. So what we do at a later stage is we set up this messaging in communities. But again, this part with this amount of detail that we have in the We Thrive package, I think is still very much missing. So integrating it with the package, integrating it with everybody else in all the other sectors, I think is a huge success.
During an acute phase of emergency, we need resources and tools that are ready to use. At this point, children are not in position to retain new academic knowledge or content. The focus should be on ensuring that their well-being and protection needs are addressed, in addition to delivering literacy and numeracy, which ensures a sense of normalcy as they practice the content they already know. Before, we needed to use up to 3 or 4 packages in order to meet these needs. Now, by teaming up with Child Protection, MHPSS, Health and Education, we bring all this expertise into one technical package that addresses these needs in a flexible and easy to use way, and also for all types of responses.
Thank you so much. And I hope you learned something from this brief video from our technical experts around the globe. Now we're going to see specifically how wethrive has worked in practice. And we're going to ask our colleague Lubaba from Sudan to be able to present what is going on there. So Lubaba, over to you, and Ariel will get the slides up shortly.
Okay, thank you, Emily. It's good afternoon in Sudan, so good afternoon, everyone. My name is Lubaba Nuraddaim. I'm working with Save Children Sudan Country Office, and I'm gonna take you with the implementing the package, the piloting, and the scale up in Sudan recently. So the first we have we agreed that we have the pilot in Sudan early this year. We started with the community consultations through the need assessments. We make sure that it will be integrated because, the package is all about integration of the 3 child protection, education in emergencies and MHPSS. So this was also the part of the community consultation was conducted by integrated participatory need assessments to assess the child protection, education in emergencies, MHPSS, within the communities, through the dedicated communities, through the focus group discussions. After that, we have the contextualization workshop. We focus on the agency approach. We have colleagues from NRC who were as well represented from these 3 main sectors. And we have colleagues from the Ministry of Education, Ministry of Social Welfare, and of course, colleagues from SCI who are representing education, child protection, and MHPSS. So we were lucky. We have all expertise in one room. And we were aiming to empowering all participants to contextualize the package at the national and subnational levels, as Sudanese have a huge diversity within the national and subnational levels. The same participant within the contextualization workshop were also targeted with the TOT training. And after the TOT training, we have training of facilitators. We, a gender balance was ensured in facilitators. So we trained and 12 facilitators, 6 of them were male and 6 were female. And we also, the frame of the facilitators was, we make sure that it's diverse. So we have colleagues from Ministry of Education, we're practically teachers. We have social workers from Ministry of Social Welfare, and we have some of the active and child rights activists in the community. And as well, within the same process with the contextualization workshop, we empower the facilitators to adapt the sessions to context-related things during the implementation of these sessions. Next, we're gonna have the piloting, the next slide. So we have piloted the package, as I said, earlier this year. It was in the east part, the top of the map, you have seen in the screen in front of you. So this was in March up to July, and we targeted 176 children divided to 90 girls and 86 boys in the Red Sea state. 12 facilitators, as I said, and 2 age groups was targeted within, with more than 150 sessions, including the free play sessions and the directed sessions. Our next step was scaling up the the package in Tawila. Tawila is in North Darfur, with the west part of the country, and we are targeting 6,250 children divided between boys and girls. We are targeting also 60 facilitators. This scale-up was the urgent needs in the west side of the country. We have ongoing clashes as well. So for the next slide, we're gonna see some challenges during the implementation of the pilot early this year, and going from the point that wethrive have structured sessions. So this was challenging within two levels for the collecting the meal data. It was a little bit different from the child-friendly spaces, or it's different from the child-friendly spaces, and people were more familiar with this style of responding to emergencies. So it was a little bit challenging to collect all the data for the facilitators and for meal focal point during the field monitoring visits. And with the same point, we have also the delivering of the structured sessions, like the self-awareness and positive life skills. It was also a little bit challenging for these facilitators who are, more likely or more familiar with the child-friendly space style of activities. And we also have some challenges regarding the time considerations because March was aligned with Ramadan period of time and in the heat as well. So that lead to calendar consideration, like shortening the sessions and so on. And we also have one of the huge challenges that the access and security. Access to the Red Sea state was only possible with prior authorization from the local authorities. So this leads for a lot of delays. And also Tawila in North Darfur now, it's hard to reach area. And yeah, luckily that wethrive is a flexible one. So we are supporting our team there by online methods. In the next slide, we're going to go through recommendations. We have, the site selections. We can do wethrive in every area as if it's safe for children. So diversing the selections, you can choose like schools, community centers, child-friendly spaces, or former child-friendly spaces. This will enhance and increase the flexibility and community ownership. And we also recommend the clarifying of package identity from the beginning to clarify what is wethrive share with other approaches and what make it unique, particularly within the M&E tools. And when we get and the implementation, of course, the strategy of implementation. The contextualization process, it's highly recommended to be done using an interagency approach. It's not only to have all the contextualization. It's culturally relevant for the community and so on, but it's also to provide you a deeper understanding of the components. So you have all expertise in one room. So any questions that pop up in your mind during the process, you have someone expertise in the room to answer that one. As the facilitators, we consider them in Sudan as our winning card for the success, in addition to the integration aspect of the package. So allowing the facilitator to make a context-specific adjustments during the implementations that can enhance the flexibility and responsiveness for children needs. So, their expertise in their own communities, they know that the children needs better than everyone, and they are in direct communication with children. So they, have to have the, we're gonna change this, we're gonna prioritize this one and this one. Incorporating local games. This one, it's nice because it was raised from one of the 14-year-old boy in Sawakin. So they were like encouraging us to use culturally familiar games in both free play and structured sessions. That he was saying that we have a pride. We are willing to show our local games. And after that, we're gonna have in the next slide some of the feedbacks from the children and facilitators. So we have a feedback from the inclusion of the package. Rhoda, one of the facilitators, said that at the start, children with special needs faced bullying and discrimination. But after continuing with the session, especially the free play and self-awareness, their peer attitude changed completely. They became more engaged and started to miss each other. This helped the child with a special need feel accepted and loved. We have another feedback from a 14 years old boy who was like highlighting we were very bored and had only one routine, but now we have different things to enjoy. We also have a 12 years old girl. She noticed a progress in her numeracy skills. So she was saying, I didn't like numeracy. It was very hard for me, but now I enjoy it very much. My favorite game is multiplying numbers by clubbing. This was also my favorite game. And we have another feedback from one of the facilitators said that it's must have activities like wethrive in the curriculum. So this, have us a clue of acceptance and impact of the package. Last but not least, the last slide, we have the community ownership. We have conducted like several meetings and discussions about the handover and the career law of our all partners. So we make sure that representatives from education, Minister of Education, Minister of Social Welfare, community, children, and so on, are all part of the meeting. So as the three friendly spaces or the safe spaces of the package in the piloting was in school, so we all agreed that Ministry of Education will be responsible from the materials and the all the logistics that have been done, so they can continue of the activities after the school formal hours, as agreed with the partners. But this doesn't mean that the other partners will be sit away and just watch what Minister of Education is doing now. So it's agreed that we make sure that it will remain integrated as a start. So this is not only, but so you have some people to provide you with some support, technical support or every other form of support, but also have people there in case you have identified some of cases need that for referral. And Sudan team also conducted learning workshop that include children, PTAs, facilitators, HAC, Minister of Education, Minister of Social Welfare representative to ensure the integrity of the package and way forward. And that was, a brief of what we have done in the last on this year. And thank you for listening.
Thank you so much, Lababa. And I think, as we all know, the situation in Sudan is quickly changing. And having something like wethrive in place, it's really excellent to be able to adapt and be agile with the needs. And just the team is doing fantastic work. So well done. To highlight some other implementation and use cases, wethrive is really meant to be flexible. So it can be used in a variety of different contexts. We're in 11 plus countries and growing right now. But to give you some idea of the flexibility and the breadth of what we can do with wethrive, I have a few examples. In the US, the United States, we have used the wethrive package and adapted it for the Los Angeles wildfire response, really working with a network of early childhood care providers. So we're not doing direct implementation, we're working all through partners and supporting those existing experts. In Madagascar, co-developed the wethrive life-saving learning sessions on drought and using them in anticipatory action approach. So they're really thinking about how to quickly be able to implement this in an acute response from that first day of response by preparing early. Similarly, in South Sudan, we're utilizing wethrive in preparedness to support integrated rapid response with local and national partners, starting those conversations early so that we can work in unison to support children's holistic needs. And finally, in Indonesia, it was used as a rapid response content for children affected by the volcano response. And in all of these cases, the wethrive material has been contextualized for what is needed. You don't have to use the full package. You can use specific sessions. You can leave out sensitive material. It's really able for you to take a look at, use what you can and what makes sense the best. Next slide, please. So now, where can you actually already find this wethrive material? You can click, use your camera to look at the QR code, and I'll pop the website in the chat shortly. Again, all this material is free. We want this to be used by anybody in child protection, education, MHPSS, even in various safe spaces for children set up in health facilities, you name it, so that this material can really be utilized and support children from that beginning of a response as early as possible. Through the website, you will have the opportunity to access editable versions of the material easily, so that we know everything needs to be translated, contextualized, and you can't do that with a PDF. So there is a way to get those materials in Word so that you can utilize it and manipulate it in your own way. Translations and contextualization are being continually developed. This material is being worked and translated on the go as we are implementing right now. So those will be added to the website, and hopefully by adding to this community, you can also support that process. We're really looking for this to be a collaboration across agencies and across sectors. And then finally, there is a email address where you have access to us. We are here to answer some questions, provide you with the materials that you need, learn from our experience, etc. And hopefully we can work again today and going forward to work collaboratively. So maybe we don't have the answer. Maybe we point you to a colleague in Sudan or another use case that has a similar context. And we're really trying to create and foster that community. Next slide, please. Questions. We are now on our question and answer portion. We've had a few in the chat so far, so please keep them coming. We've had some important questions asked, and I'll start with Suzanne, who asked, are the sessions designed to include children with disabilities? Does the facilitator's guide provide instruction on disability inclusion? What a great question. I'm going to pass it over to Rachel Smith to answer.
Thanks, Emily, and thanks, Suzanne, for that question. Yes, so within the facilitator training package, there is a specific session which is called Supporting Children and Adolescents Holistically. And within that, there is a session on children and adolescents with disabilities. So looking at giving facilitators the skills to be able to adapt and make considerations which center inclusion, essentially, which benefits all children, not just those with disabilities. So there is a session there in the training package. There are also some few considerations throughout the session plans themselves as a reminder to facilitators to bear in mind if approaching this activity, consider who is in the group and consider any adaptations you might need to make. So in the session plans, this supports contextualization, but also adaptation for children for their needs in general. There are highlighted sections in yellow, which help you during the contextualization, but also help to prompt facilitators before they deliver a session to consider how they might need to adapt some of the instructions within that. So yeah, inclusion has always been at the center of the development of these materials.
Thank you so much, Rachel. And I'll pass it over to Lubaba for the next question. Allison says, I can imagine that the selection and training of facilitators must have been challenging in the scale up particularly. Can you say something about how you did that and how you overcame the difficulties of selecting and training the facilitators?
Okay, thank you, Emily. It is a great question, and yes, it was challenging to select a diverse frame of facilitators. But we have Ministry of Education, Ministry of Social Welfare, and some of the community. They are community partners, and as well as partners of Ministry of Education. So we have them all the way from the beginning, so they know the package and how it's important to be integrated in the selection. So we have a support from that, a huge support actually from these people. So it was handed over to them. They know the aspect, they know the importance of integration, so they do the selection accordingly. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Lubaba. And perhaps I know you and Rachel worked hand in hand in contextualizing the package for Sudan. Could you talk a little bit about that process and how long it took and what the process was for contextualization? Either one of you can jump in on that.
I'll begin and then Lubaba, please come in. So this was great. So this was during the piloting of the package. So it's a good opportunity for me as someone on the core team to go in country and to support with both the contextualization and the training of these materials, and also to get feedback on what works, what doesn't work. We, of course, want to focus on integration. So for the contextualization workshop, we invited colleagues within Save the Children from MHPSS, which included Lubaba from the education team, from the child protection team. We also had colleagues join from Norwegian Refugee Council because they were recipients of the same Lego funding that supported the pilot. And then we had colleagues from the Ministry of Education, from the Teacher Training College, and colleagues from the Ministry of Social and Child Welfare. And because this was new to everybody, including Save the Children, it was a really nice opportunity to have everyone in the room on the same page, where we're looking at the materials and saying, what is this? What is it similar to? What have we used before? Why is this useful for our context? To get to grips with what the package was first and foremost. And then we went through a process of identifying what the contextualization questions were. So what were we interested in contextualizing? Then we split into groups. So we had a group of around 5 or 6 participants working on each of the age group session manuals. And we went through each of the contextualization questions and really line by line went through the materials to make inline edits, and then have sort of plenary discussions around what changes we've made that we could make across all the age groups. As Lubaba said, there are so many contextual variances depending on the geographical location, depending on the communities. So we had these conversations that, okay, what works to contextualize for Sudan as a whole, and then what further contextualization will be needed when we train facilitators in particular locations and particular communities. And it was just a great opportunity to hear back the reflections as well on the materials themselves. Lubaba, did you want to add anything to that? No? All good. And just as we're on Sudan, and Suha mentioned in the chat asking about Arabic. Yes, we had the pilot materials in Arabic that we did the contextualization for in Sudan. We are so close to having the final updated package in Arabic. We're talking a week or 2 out. And once we have a new language available, we will upload it to the resource center, as you've seen, and also the interactive interface. Just to distinguish between these 2 links, they both contain the PDFs. The interactive interface allows you, as Emily said, to register and then get updates and access to resources as they come up. The PDFs on the resource center are the exact same, but they're just the PDFs. So also to emphasize that if you would like access to the Word documents at this time, we ask you to email wethrive@savethechildren.org, and then we'll have a quick chat over email and we'll share the Word documents. So those are available in English, in French, Arabic so soon, and Spanish is underway as well. We hope to have the Spanish translation by February 2026.
Thank you so much, Rachel, on that. There was a question in the chat about internet usage. And as somebody who's been in first phase responses and you don't have accurate internet or reliable internet, I say that is an issue. However, something that we can really start to do is use this material before. Look at preparedness, look at that anticipatory action, download this material, look at that contextualization right away before that trigger event happens so that we're ready to use. However, we haven't faced in the field too much trouble in downloading anything to date. We're going to try to keep it lean as much as possible so that it doesn't take up too much internet. But I do highly recommend looking at the material beforehand in your context. It's we know that acute response is only as good as our preparedness sometimes. So really looking at the material, interacting with the material in a contextual way would be very important. We have a wonderful question from a former colleague, Amy Parker. Amy asks, I'm interested in hearing a bit more about free play sessions. It's really unusual to have dedicated free play as a session. Usually it's just something children do during breaks or at home. Any reflections or feedback from facilitators, children, parents, caregivers, or staff, for example, would be super interesting. Such a relevant question, and I'm going to pass over to Rachel for this.
Thanks, Emily, and thanks, Amy, for that question. Yeah, I think, we have anecdotal, responses from implementation so far, that, yeah, children and facilitators have enjoyed having these sessions, because, the purpose of free play as well is to support a sense of normalcy and also agency, which we find to be critical, even in emergencies, to allow children and adolescents to feel that they have some control over what they're doing. And because there's sort of guidance in the sessions around like how to set up this space, make sure it's a safe space, provide materials that are appropriate for the age group, and give children a range of choices. Then facilitators are also free to use that time to observe things like connections between children, how they're playing, to observe any signs or symptoms of children who might be at risk. So it also kind of doubles up as a bit of a like safeguarding procedure in a way, and gives facilitators that time to really observe who's interacting, what are they choosing to do. It gives them clues as to what kind of activities they might like to do in future sessions. Maybe Lubaba could speak to any learning from Sudan around the free play, any pushback also from communities or facilitators around that would be really interesting to hear. Oh, just to add one thing, that Afghanistan will be using wethrive soon, but before they sort of contextualized and translated everything in the returnee response, they were just using the free play session and the guidance around the free play in the returnee centers. So that was just something we heard that they'd picked up and started using already without necessarily doing the whole package. So it speaks to its value, I think. Over to Lubaba.
Okay, thank you, Rachel. I can say as a start that the free play sessions, especially during the first months, was the favorite session for all children, and we make sure that they have one free play session for each group each week. So they have one free play session, and it's up to them what they gonna choose. And we have a dedicated meal tool for the observation of the facilitators about the free play sessions. So it's help about what type of category of games they're using. Are they playing individually or in the groups? How they are interacting with each other. So it's help a lot. It's a form of icebreaker. I know the structured sessions. It's containing a lot of games as well. But the free play sessions it's the hugest icebreaker, and it's allowing it's a part of also promoting the right to play for children and right to choose what they want to play. So it's contributing a lot. So we a lot of facilitators was preferring to use it a lot, but it's simple, it's easy, and as I said, it's a favorite for children. So yeah, that would be all for the free play sessions.
Thank you, Lubaba. We have another question from Farida asking, how can this package fit within the rapid response mechanism, specifically the first 48 hours of an emergency? Many country-level RRMs still focus primarily on food and NFI distributions. What advocacy points can be used to encourage country humanitarian teams to adopt or integrate this package into RRMs? Such an excellent and practical question of how this is supposed to work in practice. And we know that education, MHPSS, and CP are sometimes sidelined for more tangible resources during that first initial phase of a response. What we say is really looking at preparedness in order to integrate, be efficient. I want to remind everybody that schools or learning spaces in an emergency or out of emergency are usually the only place that we have access to children and caregivers and community members every single day. These NFI or food distributions are sometimes one-off. How about we utilize that space, that trusted space of community, and really prioritizing it? When that can't happen, why don't we go to where the people are? Are there health centers? Are there a safe space that we can set up near there and integrate within them? Rachel, would you like to jump in and add anything on this specific mechanism?
I think Laurie wants to respond to that one. Yeah.
Sure. I was just going to add that we're piloting wethrive with non-technical facilitators in the DRC. And I think it's going to be a really interesting learning. So if you have those prerequisite skills of PFA and safe identification and referral, which are kind of the baseline critical skills you need in those first 48 hours, then those rapid response teams can actually be trained in how to run wethrive sessions. As you heard from the technical experts, a lot of the time other sectors won't have time maybe to reach children and adolescents in the way that would be beneficial and even prevent further harm. And I know that there've been some really incredible rapid response mechanisms piloted, and maybe I shouldn't even say piloted at this point, they've been running for several years, that prioritize education and child protection in the Sahel that we've gathered a lot of learning from. And I think building on what Lobaba said, its sessions can be picked up and also used independently. So it may be that in those kind of initial moments, it's just about having a safe space to play, to feel the ground under your feet again. And then starting to think about incorporating life-saving learning sessions that might be relevant to that context to help immediately start children and caregivers to feel a bit more confident about those specific risks. Thanks.
Thanks so much, Laurie. And we're at time now, but I want to thank everybody for joining. And we hope that you are able to access the material and interact and continue this conversation with us. This material is growing. It is evolving. Just like safe spaces for children start off one way in a response and evolve into longer term opportunities. That's what wethrive is about, as that starting place and moving forward together. So thank you so much, and we hope you can access the material and email us anytime. Have a wonderful rest of your day, everybody.